Welcome everyone to week number 4 in Science 260. Realize we are just about halfway through the course, so let's see what we've got going on this week. As a quick review, last week, in week 3, you found a research question that you want to ask and you want to figure out how to answer. And then you determined what your variables were, what was the independent variable, that would be the one that the researcher would change or adjust. And then the dependent variable depends on the independent variable, and that's what you measure, that's what you're looking for. And you determined whether your data was qualitative, so yes, no, good, bad. Oh, that's not usually what you ask in science, but you get the idea. Or quantitative, and that would be measurements, so those would be numbers for sure. In science, if at all possible, you need to make sure your data is quantitative. All right, for this week, you need to skim through chapter 3. Yes, start on page 47 this time. It's all about sampling. So how many samples are good? How many samples would be valid? This is really important when you do population studies. I will tell you that. You have to pick the right number in order to make sure that your result is an effect that you're looking for instead of just random things that are happening in the population. So yes, back to chapter 3, also skim chapter 4. This week you're going to decide who your audience is. This is not this, oh lordy. Welcome everyone to week number 4 in Science 260. We're exploring more about how science works, so let's see what we've got going on. Last week you determined a research question, so a question that you could ask that there's a way that you could possibly answer that. And from that question you determined what your variables would be, especially your independent variable, which is the one that the scientist changes or varies, and the dependent variable that depends upon the independent variable, and that's the one that you measure. That's the one that you want to know about. And so that's the dependent variable. And you also determined whether your data is qualitative, yes or no, male or female, high, low, medium. You know, there's all kinds of ways to look at qualitative data or quantitative data, and that means numbers. So you're measuring something, you're counting something. If at all possible in science, you shoot for getting quantitative data instead of qualitative. But, you know, sometimes qualitative is what you get. Okay, for your textbook, you're going to skim part of chapter 3. Yes, you were doing chapter 3 last week too. Start on page 47, and it talks about sampling. And then skim chapter 4, which is all about how to analyze data, including statistical means for analyzing data to make sure that your data tells you what you think it's telling you. Okay? Hello everyone, welcome to week number 4 in Science 260. We're exploring more this week about how science works. So let us get started. All right, so last week you developed a research question. This is a question that you could possibly answer about your topic that you're interested in. And then you were supposed to determine what was your independent variable in a study like this. So what was it that you as a scientist would change? And what was the dependent variable, which is the result of the independent variable that you would measure? So hopefully you figured out what those were in your particular type of research that you were explaining. And then you were supposed to decide whether your data was qualitative or quantitative. So qualitative is high, medium, low, yes or no, male or female. You know, there's lots of things that you can look at. Or quantitative means that it involves numbers. So you measure something, you count something. In science, you try your very best to develop quantitative data. Then you can look to see if that data is statistically significant. You can't really do that with qualitative data. All right, for your textbook readings this week, skim chapter 3, start on page 47. So this is further on in the chapter. And this part of chapter 3 is about sampling. And sampling is very important. If you think about doing these huge population studies, you have to have enough individuals involved where you get meaningful data. Then skim chapter 4, which is all about yeah, it's easy for me to say. It's been a long day. Statistical analysis of your data. And this shows you whether your data is statistically significant. And that's important. Or was this just a fluke of nature that this thing happened that you saw? So that's the rest of chapter 4. Read your module guide. It's all about data and how it's collected. There's so many different ways depending on your particular branch of science, engineering, whatever. And then how is it analyzed? And we do want to analyze statistically if we possibly can. So that's your textbook. Then you have discussion board postings this week. And they are a little more detailed than before. So I'm going to go through these instructions, okay? Just to make sure you understand this. Your initial discussion board posting, which is always due by Thursday night. Okay. Select a new, different STEM topic from what you've been examining, okay? And then find 2 sources, share the links. Now, go in, look at those 2 sources, and look at how the data was collected. And then how was it presented? Was it presented in a line graph, a table, photographs? You know, how? How was it presented? Do you know that your sources are reliable? And how do you know that? And explain how biases and assumptions could affect your data, the collection of it, preservation, and the interpretation of your data, right? So that's your initial discussion board posting. Then for your 2 response posts that are due by Sunday night, right? Look at what your classmate has written about. Look at their topic. Go out and find a new source that has to do with their topic. Share the link, because we all want to go to these links if we can to take a look at them. How was the data collected and presented? Here you go again. Do you agree with your peer about their assessment of the reliability of the source? And how similar or different are your sources' biases or assumptions from your classmates? Do you have that in common, what you figured out could be the biases and assumptions? Okay, so this is more specific about what we're looking at this week instead of just a few questions in general. And notice that this is all totally different from your topic that you are working on for the whole term. You're going to do more on that this week too. And here it comes. Module 4 assignment. Use the module template, please. Please, that's what it's there for. Restate your issue and your question, the question that you came up with in Module 3. Explain the results from your 3 to 5 sources and the findings. So what is that? The findings are how they interpreted the results. What conclusion did they come to when they got those results? That's all we're asking for. Explain the results. And remember, when I say the word explain, I mean there's a paragraph there, right there. Explain the results and the conclusion that your scientist or scientists came to about those results. And then relate your results back to your question, of course, because that's the whole point of this. Explain how biases and assumptions could have impacted the interpretation of the results in your sources. So if a biotech company paid your company to do research on GMOs, you can bet that the results say that everything is pure and hunky-dory and safe having to do with these GMOs, right? Because of the funding. Yeah. And that would be a bias. What methods were used to collect and analyze the data in your sources? So you're going to discuss all of that for your Module 4 assignment. This is for your original topic, right? Honeybees detecting lung cancer, how AI is used in all different kinds of situations, healthcare, education, etc. Climate change. You've got all different types of topics. Go back to your original for this. The discussion board postings are totally new. And with that being said, the next tip I'm going to give you is, if you need help, please ask me for help. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help guide you through this, to help you through the science. You are not scientists, and I realize that. Everybody else realizes that. I am here to help you. If you get stumped, all you have to do is ask me. If you don't understand an assignment, if you're okay with the science, but you just don't understand what the instructions are telling you to do, please just ask me. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here to help you, and I will be glad to help you in any way that I can. All right, with that being said, I hope that you have a wonderful week number 4.